All right, well, Enforcement Directorate raids in Mohali have brought into attention one of the world's biggest gold heists. The raid was conducted on the home of Simran Preet Panesar, a former Air Canada manager who has been linked to a gold robbery at Toronto Pearson Airport. This is considered Canada's biggest ever robbery. Let's first understand the case and then we'll talk about this with our guest as well. ED sources have informed NewsX that no official request for Simran Preet Panesar has come in. Well, in fact, I'm going to go to the plasma and try and tell you what exactly this case is all about, how the loot happened, how this was in fact very meticulously articulated. And these are, of course, screen grabs of what seems to be a robbery in progress. The date was April 17th, 2023. The place of the loot was Toronto Pearson International Airport. The heist was $104 million or 1.6 tons of gold that was stolen is what we are talking about. This is a large amount of money. This in fact is a huge amount of gold to be stolen. The gold shipment, in fact, two Swiss companies wanted to ship valuables from Switzerland to Canada, and Bring Switzerland Limited was to handle the logistics, is what has come out so far in terms of this robbery. Valcambi, a precious metals refinery, wanted to ship 24 gold bars to Toronto Dominion Bank, and this is basically what the premise of this entire shipment was all about. The Brinks arranged with Air Canada to ship the gold and currency in one container to Toronto, to in fact keep all the gold in one place, and the container which was holding the valuables was about 0.46 square meters. This is obviously a large space, a good enough space to store this kind of gold. And on this particular day, Air Canada flight 881 arrived in Toronto with this gold. And of course, somebody got wind of it. He got to know that this gold is there, and the container with gold bars was offloaded off an inbound aircraft, and that's exactly how it was stolen, and it was carried away as well. And then it was transferred to an Air Canada holding facility at the airport as well. Seems like normal protocol, but of course the people who were in the know of this gold coming through realized that this is the way to do it. A 5-ton truck pulled to an Air Canada cargo, and Air Canada's staff tricked by a forged shipping document. Of course, there were spurious documents that were presented, and that's how they got away with that. And this was, or this is perhaps a representation of the kind of truck that could have been used. The gold was transferred into onto a getaway truck using a forklift, which is of course easily available at airports. It is used for luggage, it is used for heavy containers, and the truck was taken to Dixon Road, and the shipment was transferred to a Brinks Canada truck after that. So it seems to be pretty orchestrated, and the looter is of course right on your screen. Durante King McLean was the driver of the truck. It seems like a Hollywood heist movie, coming to terms with reality. Ali Raza, a jewelry store owner, was also a part of this 9-member gang who could be considered the masterminds as well as the legmen who made this happen. Arsalan Chaudhary was also somebody who conspired to give momentum to this robbery. Archit Grover, of course, Indian firearms trafficker, he's been arrested is what we know so far. Simran Preet Panesar, Air Canada manager, who's still at large, he seems to be the person who was in the know of the gold because he worked for Air Canada. Parampal Sidhu, another Air Canada employee who of course got wind of this cache of gold coming through, and perhaps was also the conspirator in terms of deciding what to do and where to loot and how much to take. Ahmad Chaudhary, another conspirator, we don't know where he is right now. But Amit Jalota, of course, another Indian here from Canada, we don't know where he is right now, but these are the people who have been identified who seem to be responsible. Prasad Paramalingam, firearms expert, and of course these are the people. And of course, who is Simran Preet Panesar? Let's talk about this man. Was an Air Canada manager, and during the Toronto heist, it seems pretty evident that he was in the know of things and used this information to make himself rich. Quit his job after the heist and then disappeared. This is exactly what he wanted to do. But of course, this is a large amount of money. There is a warrant for his arrest, which was issued in April 2023. And the police had been looking for him. In fact, only Simran Preet had the access to search incoming high value shipments. He took advantage of his position and was able to, in fact, fructify this heist, had searched the system for flight containing gold and tracked their movements. Of course, he was in fact looking for something like this for a long time, agreed to surrender and returned to Canada in June 2024. Panesar is said to be living a quiet life in Mohali, is what we are learning at this point in time. His wife is Preet Panesar, who is a former Miss Uganda, that's Idi Amin's nation, and he seems to be coming to terms with the fact that there is no more places to run. He's perhaps at the end of the line over here, and he definitely will end up surrendering as well. All right, well, some breaking news coming in. ED sources have in fact informed us that no official request for Simran Preet Panesar has been sent by Canadian authorities, and that the ED has registered an independent complaint against the gold heist accused. Javed Hussain, my colleague, is joining us on the broadcast to give us more details about this. Javed? In fact, Sakshi Sharma is also joining us from Mohali Sector 79, outside of Simran Preet's residence. Javed, आपके पास पहले आना चाहूँगा मैं. जिस तरीके से इस पूरी चोरी को अंजाम दिया गया, the way this was in fact orchestrated, this is a big case, and a big criminal is in India.
जी बिल्कुल, इस पूरे मामले में ईडी ने एक सो मोटिव लेते हुए उन्होंने प्रिवेंशन मनी लॉन्ड्रिंग एक्ट के तहत मामला दर्ज किया, क्योंकि जो सिमरन प्रीत जो है उनके खिलाफ वारंट भी जारी हुआ है, और ये कनाडन टोरंटो एयरपोर्ट पर वो वहाँ पे वेयर हाउस में काम करते थे. इनके साथ कुछ और भी सस्पेक्ट हैं जिनके खिलाफ मामला दर्ज हुआ था, लेकिन ये अब तक की सबसे बड़ी चोरी बताई गई, क्योंकि ये स्विट्जरलैंड से एक कंपनी के जरिए एयर कनाडा के थ्रू ये कनाडा आया था, और टोरंटो एयरपोर्ट जो पेयर्सन टोरंटो एयरपोर्ट है, यहाँ पर ये जो पूरा कंसाइनमेंट उतरा था, उसके बाद अगले दिन ये पूरा जो ये एक कंटेनर है ये वहाँ से मिसिंग हो जाता है. उसके बाद पुलिस को इसकी जानकारी दी जाती है. पुलिस इस पूरे मामले में, कनाडा पुलिस जो इस पूरे मामले की जांच कर रही होती है, वहीं इसमें जो जानकारी मिलती है कि जो सिमरन है, जो कि भारतीय मूल के रहने वाले हैं, इसके अलावा कुछ और नाम है जो वहाँ पर वेयर हाउस में काम करते थे, तो उनकी इजी एक्सेस था. तो इसके बाद जो कनाडा पुलिस है इन्वेस्टिगेशन के बाद इन तक पहुँचने की कोशिश करती है, लेकिन इस वक्त की जो जानकारी मैं आपको बता दूँ कि ईडी ने सो मोटिव लेते हुए कनाडा की गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से या एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन या एजेंसीज की तरफ से भारत को किसी तरह कि कोई भी ऑफिशियल इन्वेस्टिगेशन के लिए नहीं कहा गया है, लेकिन सेंट्रल एजेंसी है, और जिस तरीके का जो इसमें जिस पे जो वांटेड है, जिसके खिलाफ वारंट जारी हुआ है सिमरन, वो और इसके अलावा कुछ और जो आरोपी हैं, वो जिन पर डाउट है, जिन पे शक है, जो संदिग्ध है इस मामले में, वो भारत के रहने वाले. इसलिए सेंट्रल एजेंसी ईडी ने, यानी कि प्रवर्तन निदेशालय ने सो मोटिव लेते हुए इसमें मामला दर्ज किया. उसके बाद दर्ज करने के बाद वो सिमरन से मोहाली में उसके रेसिडेंस पर पूछताछ कर रहे हैं. जो अभी तक ईडी के सूत्रों से ये जानकारी मिली कि मोहाली, चंडीगढ़, होशियारपुर और होशियारपुर के अलावा कुछ और लोकेशन हैं जिन पर सर्च ऑपरेशन की जा रही है. ईडी के सूत्रों का कहना है कि जिस तरीके से 22.5 मिलियन जो गोल्ड है, गोल्ड के अलावा इसमें कुछ कैश शामिल है, जो कैनेडियन जो मुल्क का जो कैनेडियन जो करेंसी है, मतलब 22.5 मिलियन डॉलर अमेरिकी, उसमें ये डाउट है कि कहीं ये हवाला के जरिए या किसी दूसरे प्लेटफॉर्म के जरिए इस सोने के कंसाइनमेंट को या कैश को भारत तो नहीं पहुंचाया सिमरन ने, क्योंकि सिमरन इस वक्त ईडी की हिरासत में, और वहां पर यहीं मोहाली में ही जो जानकारी मिली ईडी के टॉप सूत्रों से कि सिमरन से पूछताछ की जा रही है, क्योंकि सिमरन वहां से मिसिंग था, उसके बाद वहां से फरार हो गया, उसके खिलाफ वारंट भी जारी है. जिस तरीके से एयर कनाडा के थ्रू स्विट्जरलैंड के ज़ुरिक से ये जो पूरा एक कंसाइनमेंट आया था, और उसके बाद इसे कनाडा में ही ले जाना था, लेकिन अगले दिन जब कंसाइनमेंट पहुंचता है स्विट्जरलैंड से टोरंटो पेयर्सन एयरपोर्ट पे, वहां से अगले दिन ये पूरा एक कंटेनर जो है जो गोल्ड का और इसमें कुछ कैश थे डॉलर्स में, वो मिसिंग हो जाता है. उसके बाद ईडी इस मामले को जांच फरवरी से शुरुआत करती है, 19 फरवरी से। उसके बाद अब इस पूरे मामले में, क्योंकि पूरा मामला जो है 17 अप्रैल 2023 का है, उसके बाद से जो ये वारंट था, ये वांटेड चल रहा था, उसके बाद ईडी इस पूरे मामले में 100 मोटिव लेते हुए इस पूरे मामले की जांच में जुट जाती है। लेकिन सबसे बड़ी बात यह है कि अभी भी ईडी की जो जांच है वो कई लोकेशन पे चल रही है, और इसमें मैं आपको बता दूं कि ईडी जो है, मेन जो ईडी का जो फोकस है वो आपको मोहाली, चंडीगढ़,
जावेद हमारे साथ साक्षी भी हैं जो सिमरनप्रीत के घर एकदम उनके घर के बाहर है इस वक्त। साक्षी, ईडी ने ऑफ कोर्स पूछताछ की है, कुछ मिलने की गुंजाइश तो बहुत कम है, पर अभी तक ईडी का क्या रवैया है, क्या नज़र है? कनेडियन पुलिस ने 6 लोगों को गिरफ्तार किया है, पर अभी तक जिसको मास्टरमाइंड माना जा रहा है, जो अभी मोहाली में है, उनके ऊपर कोई भी एक्शन नहीं लिया गया है।
बिल्कुल, देखिए हिस्ट्री की सबसे बड़ी गोल्ड थेफ्ट इससे बताया जा रहा है। 400 किलो सोना जो है वो चोरी किया गया, और जो पूरा मास्टरमाइंड है इसका, जो एयर कनाडा में पूर्व मैनेजर रह चुके हैं सिमरनप्रीत पनेसर, उनके अलग अलग ठिकानों पर आज ईडी के द्वारा दबिश दी गई है। और आपको ये भी बता दें कि सेक्टर 79 मोहाली में भी उनके जो घर पर, जहाँ पे बताया जा रहा है कि वो इस वक्त रह रहे हैं, वहाँ पर भी ईडी ने रेड दी है। सुबह 6 बजे से ईडी की जो रेड है वो वहाँ पर चल रही थी, और शाम 4 बजे लगभग वो ईडी की रेड समाप्त हुई है, और वहाँ से कई सारे दस्तावेज जो है ईडी की टीम लेकर गई है। 3 स्टेट्स की ईडी की टीम, पंजाब, हरियाणा और दिल्ली, 3 स्टेट्स की जो टीम है यहाँ पर दबिश दी थी। पीएमएलए एक्ट के तहत सुमोटो जो है ईडी के द्वारा लिया गया है। इस वक्त हम लोग उनके चंडीगढ़ स्थित ठिकाने पर मौजूद हैं। चंडीगढ़ के सेक्टर 38 स्थित आप देख सकते हैं, यहाँ पर 390 जो हाउस नंबर है, ये घर भी उनके द्वारा ही रेंट पर लिया गया है। और फिलहाल यहाँ पर अंदर ईडी के जो अधिकारी हैं वो मौजूद हैं, और दर्जन भर से ज्यादा ईडी के जो अधिकारी हैं वो अंदर मौजूद हैं। वहीं इसी के साथ साथ सीआईएसएफ का जो स्टाफ है वो भी उनके साथ अंदर यूनिफॉर्म में मौजूद है, और कई घंटों से लगातार ये जो छानबीन है ये चल रही है। और अब से कुछ देर पहले हमने ये भी देखा था कि ईडी के कई अधिकारी जो हैं कुछ दस्तावेज लेकर बाहर आए भी हैं, लेकिन उसके बाद भी अभी कई अधिकारी अंदर भी बताए जा रहे हैं। और पता ये भी चला है कि आरोपी करीब 1 साल से चंडीगढ़ और मोहाली में रह रहा था, और उसने मोहाली और चंडीगढ़ में 2 अलग अलग जगह किराए पर मकान ले रखे हैं, जिनमें से एक ये भी है। और वहीं एक उनके पास एक पजेरो कार है जिसमें से वो लगातार आना जाना करते हैं। और आपको ये भी बता दें कि उनकी जो पत्नी है प्रीति पनेसर, वो भी पूर्व मिस इंडिया युगांडा रह चुकी हैं, सिंगर और एक्ट्रेस रह चुकी हैं। और लेकिन बताया फिलहाल यही जा रहा है कि उनका इस पूरे जो थेफ्ट है इससे कोई लेना देना नहीं है, उन्हें इस बारे में कोई जानकारी नहीं थी, और उन्हें इस पूरे घटना से जो है वो दूर रखा गया है। हालांकि अधिकारी जो है फिलहाल कुछ भी बोल नहीं रहे हैं, बातचीत करने की भी लगातार कोशिश की है, लेकिन फिलहाल अभी कोई जानकारी सामने नहीं आई है कि भाई क्या कुछ दस्तावेज अंदर मिले हैं, क्या कुछ ये जो पूरी ये जो घटनाक्रम है, इस घटना से
जानकारी के लिए आपका शुक्रिया। मैं आपके पास लौट कर आऊँगा, बट नाउ इट्स ऑल्सो टाइम फॉर अस टू in fact get some perspective on what happened over here. Dr. Sharad Kohli, senior economist, joins us on the show. Mr. Sumit Peer, political commentator, is also here with us. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, joins us on the broadcast as well. Mr. Money, former Under Secretary, Ministry of Home Affairs, Internal Security Affair expert, also joins us on the show. Dr. Kohli, I'll begin with you, sir. You know, the first thing that came to my mind, Dr. Kohli, if you can hear me, is the fact that, you know, after this heist, this gentleman absconded Canada and came to India 3 months after that, and the kind of gold that he has stolen, the sheer volume of it is not something that you can pack up and, you know, bring to India, or for that matter take with you to any other country. It requires some large amount of illegal and undercover coordination with international criminals to move about such kind of bullion, if I can call it. Dr. Kohli, what do you think has happened over here? You know, 400 kg of gold, you know, if you've stolen it in Canada, how do you go about, in fact, you know, siphoning off that money that perhaps has come to your account? What do you think went on over here? This is like, you know, criminal 101 is what I think this is.
Good evening, Vineet, and good evening to my fellow panelists and NewsX viewers. Well, if you ask me, if I answer your question directly, the gold was melted. And it was melted, it was distributed to the various people, beneficiaries who were there. You know, there's a big racket which I can smell. So there are 2-3 gaping holes in the whole matter. One is that after 2023, Why is a suo moto being taken now? I mean, what information reached ED now? I think that can be the thread to reach to the bottom of it, because it's been more than 1.5 years, I would say, when this whole matter has gone. And by that time, gold must have melted. It must have been distributed, or the proceeds must have been distributed to whosoever it was meant for. So I smell a bigger rat here. I smell a bigger racket here.
Kohli, if
This
you
is
can
the
hear me.
classic case. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Dr. Kohli, it could be a classic case of India not taking Canada seriously, like ever before.
Yes, exactly. Because there's a lot going on between India and Canada, Vineet, already for the last few, I would say, years now, not just months. All that Khalistan story that is going on. So this could be funding for Khalistan. This could be a larger part of money laundering racket. This could be the money could have come to Punjab in disguise as laundered money, where some of the illegitimate activities of the Khalistanis could have been funded. Their sleeper cells could have been activated using this money. So I would also, not hesitate in saying, Vineet, I'll pardon, if somebody wants to pardon me, he can, that I could also see the larger involvement of the Canadian administration in this whole process. There could be a Canadian administration. This could have been done by support of Canadian administration, because we know they have been openly supporting Governor Trudeau. Let me call him Governor Trudeau. So Governor Trudeau has been. I'm just resonating what Trump said. Nothing from my end. I don't mean any disrespect. He's the Prime Minister of Canada, but he's been openly supporting people for his petty political benefits, I would say. So I would not be surprised if this has got a larger racket in it, which is connected. The threads are connected to the administration itself, and as I said, the main thread has to be caught by the suo moto cognizance with Enforcement Directorate has taken. That how did ED come to know? I think that is where you catch the thread from, and you'll be able to release. Obviously, you'll have to stop when you reach Canada, because ED has got no locus standi in Canada. It will probably have to depend through a small inquiries through the Indian embassy there, make a request to the Canadian government, which is never going to be answered. So I see a larger picture here, Vineet. It's not just a heist. It's not just gold disappearing from the airport, reaching somewhere, and probably the gold was melted. Where is the gold by now? Why is Canadian Enforcement Authority a case of such a big heist, and there is no news from Canada? Where did the gold go? उसको धरती निकल गई. Where did the gold disappear? So I think this needs to be investigated much more than just a case of heist. I'm smelling a larger rat of funding in this, Vineet, to put it in a few words.
All right, Mr. Mani, let's pick off from where Dr. Kohli left. Whatever he said sounds like a thriller to me. Perhaps Quentin Tarantino should look at this case and make his next movie based on Mr. Panesar's life. But there are serious concerns with this heist as well. It happened right under the noses of the very efficient Canadian authorities, and that's a pun for your information. Secondly, this gold was melted. It was distributed amongst the families of these 9 criminals. Some of them have been caught. If there were shell companies that were created, or if this money was transferred through other hawala channels, what became of it? Why do you think that even after 2 years, Mr. Mani, this case only has a limited amount of information available?
The limited amount of information has come out on the public domain. So let us not assume that the government has limited amount of information available. That is one part of that. There are FIUs, there are DGRIs and several institutions where may be coordinating it. ED is the last checkpoint in which they are doing it. So that is the public domain. Other information needs to be processed, revalidated, and certain times if the government of Canada doesn't give you an authority or request or something like that, you cannot do anything with spite of all the information. But whatever the haste is there, whatever the money is in India, the government is entitled to take as per the PMLA action, and other beneficiaries, as long as the crime has taken place outside and not, there are jurisdictional issues. So let us be very clear about it. Yes, I agree with my previous speaker, Mr. Sethi, that it is a case, the possibilities are extremely not in the Indian interest, especially the Canadian Prime Minister or the Canadian government did not even notify, in spite of the fact that April 2023, there have been issues. He had visited India in 2020, for G20 in September 2020. There could have been other inter-level delegations. So many opportunities were there, but this in particular was not there. And not only that, his unholy coalitions with all. So directly, let me put it, there are many Khalistani movement leaders who are very well politically entrenched in Canada and operating from there, and his unholy coalition, including for political compulsions, is also a giveaway. Number three is, see, 2023, the later part of the SFJ and the farmers were agitation was again raising its head. Of course, it was quelled. But it's a fact that we all know that January 2024 and all. So was it a fund was being infused to revive that? Because the Panesar, one Panesar from UK and including the famous cricketer had supported the SFJ. There have been several type of funds coming from during the farmers' strike. Huge amount of funds were coming from Canada and UK, especially the Khalistan support groups. Khalistanis have been creating problems for India in Canada, outside Indian embassy in UK or Indian consulates in USA, outside the Indian High Commission in UK, Birmingham and other places. So this is very, very disturbing, and we have got the bottom of the end. But what do we really have the capability, or can we seek cooperation? Will they cooperate just in trade, or whether if there is a regime change, the future Canadian PM will raise above his political compulsion and look at the larger part, because Khalistanis are no less than any other terror organization.
Right, and you know, so you're absolutely right. Sumit Peer, this also gives me an opportunity Sumit, if you can hear me, this also gives me an opportunity to taunt Canada that unlike Canadian authorities, we are actually taking action against people, our own citizens, who have perpetrated serious crimes on the Canadian soil. But Canada will not return the favor.
Vinny, thank you for having me on your show. Interesting topic and a very good question. You see, there are a couple of things here. First, we talk of a real democracy and we talk of a furgy democracy. Secondly, we talk of a real leader and we talk of a furgy leader. We talk of an elected leader, we talk of a selected leader. The first part was for India, Modi ji, and Bharat's democracy. And second was for the Canada, Trudeau and his selection because his father's son and a foiled model, failed actor. Sab kuch fail hai uska. Anyway, the challenge here is, look, India is trying to set a very precedence as a responsible democracy, even if these people are Canadian passport holders, maybe of Indian origin, right, or Indian passport holders. If they have done something illegal and they have come in India and they think they can park their money in India and live peacefully and evade the law, Bharat and Modi is not going to let it happen. The message is very clear. We are not sheltering perpetrators, which might be criminals, which might have done financial irregularities. Forget the terror activities. On the contrary, you have been going bazooka over a plumber carrying a AK-47, a plumber going for training to Pakistan, a plumber organizing the shooting camps in Canada. And you say because he has a Canadian passport, because he was a Canadian, the hell has broken loose. Now this is how you make people look very doff in the international diplomacy. You make them look very meek and chota look in international diplomacy, because some people have this arrogance, white skin, blue-eyed makes us racially superior. Well, that is not the case. Now you see how responsibly India, the Bharat, is acting and walking the talk, how responsibly Prime Minister Modi is handling it, and what kind of a mess up did Trudeau clear. I call him Governor Trudeau now, my given name, has created in Canada. This talks about the difference. What is the difference between a leader? Because for Modi ji, it's 650 million people. 65 crore log vote dete, tab wo kursi pe baithte. But for him, his just father's son just needs a Jagmeet Singh to hang around and be on the chair. Another important aspect is where Dr. Kohli and Mani Saab left is, look, one is that aspect of it, how responsibly we are being, which you pointed out, Vineet. Second is that when this money has reached here, how come all these people end up in India? How come all these people are of Indian origin? How come this money has ended up here? Why didn't they go to London? Usually, for all such people, the best place in the world is London. They could go in London and perpetually be there. They have the money. Why are they come to the India? So that raises a question, is there a bigger conspiracy wherein this money and this gold was used to finance terror here, have some anti-India activities, and then you could say Indian nationals, of people of Indian origin, looted a bank, came with this money and came to India, and now India is accusing us that money was used against terror. And if money was used against terror, what do you do, Mr. Modi? That would have come at a later point of time. So what we are doing, we are acting in time. We are sending a very clear message. Indian soil, Indian land will not be used for harboring terror and criminals. On the contrary, you have those Canadian soil where all the gangsters are there. Well, you're not extraditing anybody, where all the terrorists end up there. And because when they kill each other in the gang war, then you can't end up and say, no, it's the Indian government who's getting it done. This is how shabby the whole thing is looking. Whereas Indian government is cracking the whip. Even you did not ask her. The question which is here, why do you know these people from Indian origin, most of them are Canadian passport holders, if they are in India, why the heck you didn't ask Indian government for? What were you trying to protect? Whom were you trying to protect? And what is your plan behind the plans? You were waiting for a disaster to happen and then blame Prime Minister Modi for this? That we organized this money and there was a heist and the money was used in India? There are a lot of things we need which cannot be explained, or is the infamous Jagmeet Singh behind it? Because
So what does this tell you about the Canadian dream? It's obviously not happening. You have to rob your own company to make ends meet.
That's what I'm telling you. Is it Jagmeet Singh who's behind this? Because usually in Canada you can make a lot of money. The Jagmeet Singh got a hold of a lot of guys, incidentally money heist part 3 or part 4, whichever is, it can be made on this. How a politician and a bunch of guys get together and they kind of loot their own country. This is what the dream is. They make you sell you a land there, pay them the money, reach there, then they try to enslave you for your whole life. They try to swallow everything you have and literally make you as a bandhwa mazdoor. That is what their model is. And sorry to say, Bollywood and all have hyped up these places to a level wherein people are growing their crazy.
Let me also get Gautam into this conversation. Gautam, there was a very popular movie called The Italian Job, which talked about a robbery being planned with Charlize Theron and Mark Wahlberg. What would this movie be called according to you? Do you have a title in mind? And please take the liberty of being as sarcastic as you can.
Well, this is an airport heist, so it could be the Great Airport Heist, and you've had the Great Train Robbery, which was the first of this kind, in which the perpetrators were not found for years. The last one was found about a quarter of a century later. Some of them were caught, 7 or 8 of them were involved. The Italian Job, excellent, actual execution of the heist. Here, what has happened, which is curious in my mind, is 2 years later, I think the Enforcement Directorate has got a wind of the money, some of the money which is in India. And if we can, 21 million, $22 million is a fair amount of money, but of course it depends on how many places it is spread and to what purpose it is put. If it's armaments and things like that, it isn't that much money. If it is bribing people, it's quite a lot. And I do hope that in the process, never mind what the Canadians are going to do, as both the panelists have said, the trail will stop outside the borders of India, and certainly anything to do with Canada will be stonewalled. But if we can catch the people who have received this money and retrieve a good deal of it, which is still in India, either in cash form or in people's accounts or in property or in whichever form, then that will be a general benefit, because not only are we preventing terrorism, assuming that this is being used to finance the Khalistani movement, but also it is a good thing for the national exchequer to get all this ill-gotten gains. And I don't think Canada is going to claim it, because as many people have implied on this panel, that there's probably political involvement that made this possible in the first place. Beneath.
Right. Dr. Kohli, we've run out of time, but I'm tempted to ask you this question. What does this also tell you about Canada and its security apparatus. I've never heard of something like this being pulled off in India.
Well, first of all, the name. So, since everybody has a right to give it a name, let me call it Gold Hanger. It happened very near to the hangar where the planes are parked. So, let's from the Gold Finger. This is Gold Hanger. I think these kind of crimes, Vineet, in a country like Canada, where cash is not very prevalent, it's very easy. All you need to do is to track down the trail of money, and you don't find stacks of cash moving around in Canada that easily. So this is a deliberate attempt to cover it up. Otherwise, to catch the thread of money, the trail of money all through is the easiest job in the world. You float a company, you float it in a tax haven. From there, the money moves to tax haven. From tax haven, it moves to somebody's company. From there, it moves to another account. So you create 4 or 5 layers in between. By that time, the trail is lost. But now the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, not just in India, Vineet, even in Canada for that matter, they have a very strong Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So what is happening to the enforcement agencies? Obviously, this shows like a cover-up. And they should, now if India exposes, it will be very embarrassing for Canada that the exposure has happened in Mohali, in Punjab, and they will have to now face, questions which they will obviously not be answering. The sad part of this whole story, Vineet, is that the buck is going to stop somewhere across the border, and ED will be left with probably some unanswered questions, because those answers have to come from Canada. And the new regime in Canada, after Mr. Trudeau hands over the charge, it will all depend upon them. But I really have not very high hopes of being able to fully crack down into this whole, to the bottom of the matter. The gold has melted. It is no more in the form of bars. It's in the form of liquid and converted to even more liquid, which is cash and bank.
All right, fair enough. We've gotten some interesting theories as well as some interesting perspectives on what happened to this gold and who was behind it. It's going to be a treat to watch this case unfold and figure out what happened to that gold, what will happen to the chief conspirator who finds himself in Mohali under the ED lens. We'll take a short break now. Be right back.